Hey, and welcome to Tea of Life podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Thompson, and today we have Shelley, who is my niece, and we had a conversation with her back in episode number 29, and she, in that episode, she shared her passion for Ireland, and with the current situation, the current shutdown situation, as you know, we are all dealing with the COVID-19 shutdown, quarantine, hunker down, whatever it is that you want to call it. Shelley has also found herself in a similar situation to us as to she also has had to sit back and watch her work disappear. And I wanted to invite her in today and just have a chat with her and get her perspective on how she is also handling being shut in and unable to get out and make money and hang out with her friends and hang out with her family. Shelley is single, so the dynamics there is a little bit different as well. She's not home with a family to constantly converse with. So I wanted to get her perspective, how she's handling it, make sure she's okay, and just hopefully be able to share something that you guys can identify with and maybe allow you to feel a little bit better about your situation and realize that you're not alone and that there are other people out there possibly with the same struggles that you have and dealing with some of the same situations that you have. So welcome, Shelley. Thank you for coming back to the podcast.
Gosh, you've done a lot now because I think the one yesterday was number 86. So, I mean, good on you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been an interesting ride, I should say. We really enjoyed doing the podcast, and I mean, I can't say I've always enjoyed doing the podcast because, you know, you kind of go through seasons of, do I have to do another one? And then there's times where, you know, you're like, yay, I get to talk to these people. So, but yeah, it's exciting, and I'm really happy to have made it this far. We're now in season 4 of our podcast. So yeah, it's been amazing. So Shelley, are you ready to answer some questions?
Go for it. I'm here. Not going anywhere. So.
Okay. So first of all,
yes.
First of all, I don't want to be like non-compassionate. I want to make sure that all my guests are doing well. And I just want to make sure that, you know, you're hanging in there. So my first question is this: are you okay?
Yeah, I am. The first week that this started, it was very chaotic, and I had a couple of panic attacks, not gonna lie. But then once I had some questions answered in regards to my jobs, I just sat back and was like, all right, we're gonna do this. And I feel like I've been taking it one day at a time. Now, those days often feel like the same day as the day before. It's like Groundhog Day, like it repeats over and over again, often in the same clothes. But yeah, no, I'm fine now. I'm actually, I hate saying this because I feel like we're in a war and there's people on the front lines, and I'm some of the people that get to sit at home. And like, so I'm actually enjoying quarantine to a certain extent. But I realize that there's a lot of people who are sacrificing their lives for us. And they'd prefer that we stayed at home and enjoyed ourselves instead of getting out and about and put them in more jeopardy, like our nurses and our doctors. So I know that they want this over, but I'm using it to the best of my ability right now. And so I feel like I'm actually in the best place that I could be. So I'm good.
That's excellent. So do you consider yourself more of an introvert or extrovert, or?
No, I'm an extrovert, and I live alone. And that in and of itself. So I moved into this apartment last June, and I had a lot of panicky moments over it because, I mean, I get my energy from being around people. And then on top of that, the way that this apartment structure, it's not quite code. There's no windows. And I'm the opposite of that. Whereas I have a cutout for a window over here, but there's not a window. It's like there, it's prepared. There's not a window. So I know that's slightly illegal. Shh, don't tell anybody. But it's my friends my old friends from high school, their parents that I'm renting from, and it's meant to be temporary anyways. It works otherwise, basically. So anyway, like for me to move into a space where I can't see out, and I'm aware of the need for sunshine, and I am a person who gets energy from nature, and I have to go outside to remind myself what time it is sometimes because I have so many lamps on, but then I have to I have to go out there and, you know, feel alive again on a daily basis. So now like I have to do that sometimes extra, and I'll spend time outside on, daily. I get in my car daily just to feel like I've gone somewhere and come back. But yeah, that living alone thing hasn't been ideal as an extrovert, but at the same time, God's really using that to do a number on my heart. And I think that some of quarantine actually doesn't look any different than my daily life, and some of it's very different. Yeah. So it's kind of like that juxtaposition of being alone, but now I feel less alone because the rest of the world's doing what I'm already doing. Right. So I feel like I'm a little bit on an even playing field and I'm not missing out on stuff. So I'm like, yay, we're all doing this. But yeah, me being by myself is hard because I would go normally to a coffee shop to do my schoolwork and for the sake of being around people. So for me to try to just do that at home all the time is I get very ADD because home is not where I do work. So that's different.
Are you spending a lot of time on Zoom? Or
at night, I didn't even know what Zoom was until quarantine. Apparently people do this all the time. I was like, well, I FaceTime people and I Skype my counselor, but I didn't know about Zoom. So I was like, this is interesting. So like I've have at least 3 Zoom calls a week. So I have my community group, my actual small group, and then my group of friends. In that capacity. So all those groups happen every week. And sometimes Zoom calls can be a little exhausting if I've done too many in one day because it's too much screen time for me.
Yes.
Like as much as I'm interacting with someone, it's still a screen. Yes. So I'm like, I feel like I just need to shut off and go look at a hard actual physical book and go sit in the sunshine. Do you know what I mean? To get that naturalness of life. So I found myself, I was actually talking to one of my close friends and we were both a part of the same small group. And we realized that we were inadvertently skipping our small group on Zoom just to voice message each other through WhatsApp so that we didn't have to see the screen anymore, but we still had contact. So it's very weird.
Yeah, I totally get that. Last week I was kind of feeling the same way. I ended up being, I think, on Zoom for a total of 8 hours in one day. And like I was in the same seat for I think like 7 of those hours because I ended up taking my computer outside thinking, okay, if I'm gonna be on Zoom, I'm gonna go outside. Well, my battery life on my computer doesn't last very long, and I wasn't thinking about that. So I get out there and I get comfortable, and just when I get comfortable, it's like warning. So I had to come back inside and sit in the hard chair, and so I completely understand. At that point, I was like I think we had frozen pizza for dinner that night because I was like, I can't do anything else. I can't think about anything else. So one of the things that I wanted to mention to you, I used to work in an office that did not have any windows. And one of the things that we did, I know it was awful. And I had to be there at work at like 5:30 in the morning. So it was dark when I would get to work. And then when I would leave at like 2:30, it would be like sun shining, blaring, but I would not have seen the sun all day long. So what we ended up doing was we got, the old windows that people, take out the old windows in their house. And it's so popular, you get those windows and you hang them on your wall.
I have one.
Okay. So we got one of those and we hung it in the office. And then we got some pictures of like different scenes and blew them up the size of the window. And so we would have like a rainy day picture we would stick in there and would pull it out, or have a sunny day picture or whatever it was like outside, it would have snow or something. So we would just change the picture in that window and it would feel like we were looking, psychologically, it helped because it felt like you were looking outside into the world when you were, but it was a really good idea. It helped. All right. So you are currently attending college and you are working towards your master's degree in
Yes.
psychology, correct? Okay.
Mhm.
So how has your schooling changed like in the past month?
School hasn't changed a bit. It was
Okay.
all online. So
Okay.
I've always been doing it online, but the process about how I have to go through to do it changes a bit. So my study habits have always been I go to work and I come home, or I do schoolwork, or I do schoolwork in the morning and then go home. So I have like my shifts change every week, and I work for 3 different jobs, so it's going
Mhm.
to change. So the way that I've structured my days is that even when I was in my first round with college, I was at home, especially at the beginning with my parents and my sister, and they didn't quite understand. They thought that I had more time on my hands, which I didn't. Had less time, and so studying at home was actually harder because there's too many distractions. So I learned at a young age in college not to be at home to study. Study at school, study at a coffee house. Like I bet there should be another line for tuition that says money spent on coffee just to do schoolwork.
Yeah.
Right? Like the amount of money that I've spent is
Yeah.
a lot. But it's also my coffee is my passion because that's one of my jobs. And that's where community is found, and that's where I get the most of my work done. So there is a coffee house in downtown Alpharetta, shameless plug, Valor. They are great. They're my
I've
good
never heard
friends.
of them. Okay.
I've been there since the day they opened. They started off as a coffee trike, or like a trolley, it's just like a little cart.
Okay.
And they were planted in the back of a co-working business. And the co-working business allowed people who were visiting the coffee cart to also kind of stay and do work. And it was the perfect setup for me because the people that were in the co-working space were there to work.
Mhm.
So there wasn't a lot of like extraneous chit chatter. And because it was such a small space, you got to know the baristas really well. And we're in the same industry, so we've talked back and forth about stuff the whole
Mhm.
time. And it was my chance to kind of have some self-care because I work in the coffee industry. So I got to escape my side of town and go to a different side of town and be the guest and be the receiver. And so and I got a lot of schoolwork done, and
That's
they've
great.
now turned into their own shop. They have a little bit of food, and also while I was living in Ireland, the coffee shops or the coffee houses over there are amazing, and they're very European in their look and in how they present things, and very simplistic. So I love Valor Coffee. They roast their own beans, all that stuff. Shameless plug for them. But they've had to reorient how they do their business too, which means I can't sit in there and do schoolwork anymore. And so when I leave, I would even leave my coffee house sometimes to go there just because I know so many people in the coffee house in Woodstock
Mhm.
that I literally can't get anything done because it would be like
Right.
constant conversation all the time. So I have
Right.
to leave. They
Right.
respect me enough. I go in there. They know you by name, they know me as soon
Mhm.
as I walk in the door. And it was sit down. It feel like I was, as an extrovert, I'm still kind of surrounded by people. You share tables with people, and sometimes that backfires and sometimes it works out great. But like it was just like, it's that community. And then I also ride my bike almost every day, and I would get back in my car and take my car, which is another 10 minutes up the road to the trail, ride it, and then drive home. So like that was my normal routine. And when I got home, and that was my relaxation time. Well, now I'm trying to do work in my space of relaxation. So that kind of gives me this ADD moment where I feel
Right.
like I'm stuck in Saturday morning, which is
Mhm.
restful. Your time for creativity. Like my house is
Right.
very like nurturing towards that because that's the way I set it up. And I have to like structure my days really well so that I like am
Yeah.
rewarded for doing my schoolwork.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like a little different, and I can't go
Right.
to my coffee shop anymore to do my schoolwork. And I still go and support them because I'm trying to support small businesses, but I have to
Mhm.
limit that to maybe once a week, and then I'll
Yeah.
get a bag of coffee instead of maybe a cup because that lasts me longer. So
Mhm.
I'm trying to like find the balance of I still want to support them, but I'm also trying to be extremely frugal. Like,
Right.
I mean, I would be at their coffee house like 3 days a week, which is
Mhm.
that is spending money but it's spending the money for the sake of my way of being productive.
Right.
So I allow it. But
Mhm.
now it's like
Yeah, it's an
finding that,
investment. You're making
yeah,
an investment. Right.
finding that
Yeah,
balance.
I totally understand that. So, how has social distancing affected you the most?
So at the beginning, so the way that the shutdown started happening were I was substitute teaching that Friday. It was the Friday the 13th, actually, in my mother. The kids were waiting, literally, they were asking all day, are we going to shut down? And I'm standing there with them. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this probably needs to happen, because going through a hallway with middle schoolers, they aren't very sanitary anyway. And then they're like,
it's overcrowded. I mean, our schools are overcrowded like crazy already.
It's very like this. And
I didn't understand that either, because they shut down all the extracurricular activities, but then they didn't shut down school for like days after that. And I thought, okay, so we're shutting down, going outside and, all those things, but we're not shutting down the inside where everybody's actually like this. Like, I couldn't understand
why it
was
I think the reason why
like that, but
they may have done that is to, as a slow shutdown. And let's just take Cherokee County, for instance. They did that, right? They did the backwards bit, and it didn't sound like it made a whole lot of sense. But when a school is playing a school in another county, and that county has taken more precautions than we have, it kind of compromises who were around, I think. And I think that they were trying to figure out, it was almost like giving yourself more, and I'm guessing on this, they're trying to give themselves more time to be like, all right, how are we going to set this up when we do shut down school? And by the end of the weekend, we already knew that they did that. They were like, this isn't going to work. So I was still working that day. And then I was like, okay, so that's the job gone, which stinks, because in the month of March, that was the most substitute jobs I had all year. And I was like, are you serious? I structured my other two jobs around the fact that I wanted to substitute more for the rest of the school year. So that's why I only had one shift at the brewery. And that's why I was down like 1 or 2 days at the coffee house, because I was trying to be like, I just want to sub more, because it was healthier for me. I was doing schoolwork, and I get to do schoolwork while the kids do schoolwork. So I was like, I kind of needed to do that at that time. So that's when I was like, great, I just lost a lot of money.
And you live in a different county than I do, but the county that I live in, they're actually paying their substitute teachers till the end of the year, because they don't want to lose them. They said that, they're a big vital part of how we continue our educational system. And so they ended up like paying their substitute teachers till the end of the year, which I thought was awesome. But I'm really surprised that the surrounding counties haven't done that as well.
If I was to guess, I think that Cobb has more money than Cherokee County does. I never sat back and expected them to. Now, I was hoping, because I had, at least in my head, this is me, I had confirmed substitute teaching jobs. I had 3 or 4. And that was my rent money, actually. So like I had that set up.
They should have went ahead and paid you for that.
I mean, that would be nice, but it's also like, it's as needed, right? And they could have easily just canceled me for anything. So sometimes teachers, they book you, and then at the last minute they cancel because they realize they didn't need to take that doctor's appointment, or they didn't have training that day. So I could still get canceled. So that's how variable that job is. So you're trying, they want you to rely on it in a sense that, well, we want you to want to be here, but it's kind of like getting paid for volunteer work. That's the way I've always seen it. Like I even like confuse it with like church lingo, where I'm like, oh, I'm serving today at this school. I'm like, no, you're like, you're actually working. Like, so it's like, that's the mentality behind it in my head.
Okay.
And yes, I was relying on it for a chunk of my income, and that sucks. And it would have been great for them to pay us, but I also didn't expect that.
So how is your family dealing with not being able to get together with you?
Okay. So that's probably the second thing that's like been hard, because when we first did this, my mom works for the school system as a bus driver. So they immediately, that's gone, but they're still getting paid. My other aunt is also a librarian for the school system up in Pickens. So she's off. And then of course, my little cousin, Alina, is also off. So, and they all live together.
Mhm.
So the way that they see it is they've been quarantining by themselves this entire time. So they start wanting to have family meals. And I'm like, cool. So I come over, family meals, like 2 or 3 times a week, because they're trying to take care of me. Because
Mhm.
I, at that point, had no unemployment. I was draining my savings very quickly because it was the end of the month going into the first of the month. So I was like, well, this is nice. We actually get to spend time together. And my parents live pretty close to me.
Mhm.
So it, like, I can go to my mom's pretty easily. The thing that was making me nervous, though, is that they kept finding out more and more about who was carrying it asymptomatically. And I was like, I'm in the bracket of people who will probably get sick and never know it. And then allergy season is happening. Like one of those days, like at the beginning of April, we had a count of 9,000. I don't have spring allergies that bad, but that was bad for me. Like, and I ride my bike. So I had an eye infection for 2 weeks and nothing was curing it. And I was like, if this is a sign, if this is viral, the only virus I've probably been around is COVID. So I was like, I got really nervous and I was like, this is just not safe anymore, because the kind of the psychology behind it, I think, is that whenever I would go over there, I was like, oh, it's just my family. Like, they're not sick, they're being safe, but you can't look at it like that. It's not like
Right.
the virus isn't making you a bad person. You know what I mean? Like, they're
Mhm.
not just safe people. Like, you can be carrying it. And at that point, like, my little cousin was still working at the UPS store. So eventually, like, we made her stop working, because my mom and my aunt are in their 60s and my grandfather is 85, and we were all having dinner together. We would stay up late playing cards, and I was like, I love this. But I had to finally call them and be like, will you guys stop asking me to come to dinner, because I don't feel safe coming to dinner anymore, for your sake. Like, just out of an abundance of caution, because the rest of the world is doing it. I was like, I know that this is it's like that. It's hard because I was like, I've been quarantining myself, so you'd think I'd know by now if I had something, but then you wouldn't, because
Right.
you don't
Yeah.
know what it
You may or may
is. And
not, right?
that eye infection literally could have been the only thing that happened. And I had a friend last year, I happened to be going through my pictures. She sent me a picture this time last year, of her kid and her kid's eye, and nothing was fixing it. And they found out it was a virus. They didn't know what it was exactly. And I was like, and they live in
Mhm.
Ireland. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is something similar to that. Or maybe it's pollen. I don't
Mhm.
know. But that was the biggest thing for me socially, is that, like, I was really looking forward to spending more time with my family, but I
Mhm.
actually can't. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, we might have more time now to have family dinners, but it's not a good
Right.
idea. I
Right.
think I could probably start that up again, because my eye is better and I've only been to the grocery store,
Mhm.
but
Right.
I don't know if it's wise. I
Right. And
just
if
keep
they got
kind of,
sick, then you would think, oh
yeah,
my gosh, was that because of me, or because of something that I did, because of something that I
yeah,
gave them, or something because, they went to the grocery store themselves. And so you would never,
yeah.
I mean, this way you're safe and going, okay, I know that I'm not the one who made you sick. So,
Yeah.
okay. So my next set of questions are not questions that I sent you in advance. And I want you
Uh-oh.
to answer them as quickly as possible. You don't have to have
Okay.
any explanation. Just it can be one word answer, but I want to know the first thing that pops in your mind. Okay, so you're doing a psychology degree. So you are going to be like very familiar with this test. This is like
Okay.
one of those where you pull up a piece of paper and the first thing that pops in your mind, like what does it look like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay? So you
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
All right. And they're easy, very simple questions, but everybody's answers have been like, broad spectrum. So I'm just curious of what pops in your head.
Okay.
All right. So, what is one thing that you miss the most?
Valor coffee. I miss drinking coffee out of a mug. Like, they
Awesome.
have to give you to-go cups now. And I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
sit here with a mug, and I can't do
Right.
that. And that seems so stupid, but like, I do miss
Yeah. Okay. Great answer. Love it. And we'll put a link to Valor Coffee
that. Okay.
in the show notes so that
I
we
would
can
like
do a little
that.
bit of a shout out to them. Um, okay. So, what do you miss the least?
This is I look,
Okay. I see something in your head. You've got to tell it. You've got
I
to share
know,
it.
I'm afraid to say it, but um
Now you have to.
okay, work.
Okay.
Like,
That's
okay, so
valid.
like,
Yeah.
I miss it in some respects, because I do miss the camaraderie and all of that. But then, like, I had like, there's some like stressful situations that have popped up before, and it would be more stressful now that we're trying to wear gloves and keep people 6 feet. Like, it's a lot of stuff that like I don't normally have to worry about, and to me it's just easier to just be here.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
absolutely. It's always
I
easier just to be here.
I know I miss it sometimes, but sometimes
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm still being productive. So I'm like,
Yeah.
don't miss it. Yeah.
Okay. So what is something that you've learned during this period of time that you would like to carry forward?
Let's see. Well, it's more what I knew this period of time was going to be, and it's trying to preserve that. Like, now I feel like I get to sit back and really look at my heart and where it has, disobeyed God, and where it's also been hurt, and like give those things to him and sit here long enough to process them. To me right now is about taking this time away where we are cornered and we get to sit here and deal with our stuff and deal with it well and give ourselves some grace in that, and try to actually take care of us, and spend quality time with whoever we're around, and spend a lot of time in prayer. Like, I've been really convicted. I'm like, I don't get to be on the front lines, I don't get to be at work, but I get to pray, and I've seen prayer be very powerful and effective.
Right.
So I'm just trying to really dig my heels into that in this season,
Mhm.
because there are some things that I've been trying to work through,
Right.
and now I get to, and
Yeah.
I've
And
been
that's
sticking
absolutely
with it.
something that we can,
Yeah.
carry forward, and something hopefully that that we remember after all this is over. I mean, when you're in the moment, you remember to pray, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
well, not always. I mean, when you're in the moment, when you're in a crisis moment, the first thing that pops in your head is not to pray. It's when you realize that you can't handle your crisis moment. And that's when you start to realize that you can't, that you need to pray, right?
Yeah.
So once we get past this crisis moment, a lot of times we forget that prayer may have brought us out of it when we get past it, but then
Hmm.
once we get past it, we forget to continue to pray, and so the
Yeah.
cycle kind of continues on that. So
And that's like, that was an easy one to see with 9/11, because it happened in an instant. It felt like an attack. We all rallied together really
mhm.
fast. The highest attendance in church was the Sunday after that. And it boomed, but then it fizzled out again, right? This has been a long, slow disaster where we've had a 9/11 every day. If you watch the news, we've lost that many people almost every day. So
Yeah.
it's like, but if it's removed far enough from us, it's just us being quarantined, and it can be frustrating. But it's not until you bring it here that it's real. And I think
Mhm.
the balance is not to completely shut ourselves off from the world, that we're not feeling it with them, but to not stay glued to the TV and take that in and swallow that bomb,
Right.
because that's just anxiety, and that's not going to be helpful either. So
Mhm.
like, I find that like there's a time in the day where I'm like, okay, I need to listen to the news because I want to know what's actually happening, and I want to know where I need to pray, but then I'm going to turn it off, because I also don't want to stay there.
Mhm.
And I also don't want to numb myself out either. Like, at
Mhm.
first that was easy to do. I don't want to just busy myself with productive things that I need to do, or what Netflix season I want to watch now. Like, I think now that, me personally, I have a little bit better rhythm getting used to this like, oh, I would like to read that book again, or let's work on this part of my heart, or let's be spontaneous and just go get in the car and drive, or I need to spend the
Right.
next 5 hours
That's
on a
what I
paper.
want to do. This morning I was like I've been fine, and all of a sudden this morning I woke up and I was like, I have got to get out of the house. I've got to go somewhere. I've got to go for a drive. So I told Brandon earlier that later I want to maybe go for a drive somewhere. I'm like, we haven't been out anywhere, and just all of a sudden just hit me this morning. It's like, I gotta get out of the house.
Oh my gosh,
Okay,
to get on the highway,
yeah,
like get on the highway and get your car up to 65 miles an hour. I'm like, oh my gosh, it goes so fast.
I haven't even driven. I haven't driven since all this.
I drove on the highway for the first time in a month and a half, and I was like, my car goes this fast? Like, because I've only driven from here to the store, and it's like 45.
Okay, so along that same line, do you find that you've been able to find new adventure during this time?
Well, I am in school until the 8th. So there's this, I think the main restlessness that I have is that I'm working where I play and where I rest, and trying to combine all of those into the same space is actually hard for me because I usually separate them, like I said earlier. So structuring my day helps a little bit. And then I reward myself with a walk up and down my street while I'm FaceTiming. I reward myself with like, oh, I get to go cook this meal that I've been planning, or I get to go ride my bike. Or I just get to sit down and watch Netflix and not feel bad about it. You know, like it's those kind of things that I'm trying to like structure my days with a reward so that I'll push through. But I'm sitting at my table, you know, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, normally when I do this, I get creative. I'm like, I think of all these little projects I want to do. And I don't feel like I'm free enough to do those things right now because I have a lot of schoolwork to do. And trying to keep structure when I also don't have to. And then I'm also inside. Because I'm on the computer, I can't really see my computer if I'm outside. So it's hard for me to take it outside to work on a paper.
Yeah, it's hard.
I'll go outside to read like the chapters in my books that I have to read. But like that's the hard part, is if I know like today I might get to some of that. Mondays are my Sabbath days because a lot of my schoolwork is due on Sunday nights. So I end up doing it on Sunday afternoons, and I still usually serve at church on Sundays, even though we're not doing that right now. Yeah. So Mondays have been like my fun day because it's beginning of the week. It's not pressing to have things done, but at the same time, I'm like, I have that thing hanging over my head that I know I have to do this. So after the 8th, I feel like if we're still in shelter in place, I don't know what's happening, but if that's still happening, like for me, I've already chosen it to happen because I need to focus on this long enough to get it done. And if I'm still in that place and I'm not able to work safely, because I don't know what that's going to look like in 2 weeks, then it'll start a new version of quarantine for me, because everyone else, like I've seen people like, I don't know how they've planted gardens or, you know, remodeled their houses.
Because they're not working on their masters.
I know. And then like, there's also like the kids will be out of school at that time too. That's the last day of school. So for all of us kids and parents that are, you know, whether you're doing school or in it, you know, like it'll change because that's summer vacation. And I don't know how we're going to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
And I don't, like, unless you have a pool in your backyard, you can't go to the pool.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with May. I am excited to do some of those. Like I have a piano. I would actually like to paint it white. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be fun.
I want to pot some of these plants. I actually need to work on my Mother's Day gift because I'm making it this year. So those things I'm looking forward to, because I would probably sit here and do that during the day if I was like on vacation, but this isn't vacation yet. So I think that's my, I get that pull back and forth. Yeah. I have been tap dancing at home though. I bought a composite board. One of my friends helped me put it together, and we still have tap class, and it's a recorded class, and I do it by the end of the week whenever they record it. And so we're trying to keep up with that. I don't know if we'll get to have a recital or not, but I would like to wear the costume that I just paid money for.
That would be awesome.
So.
That would be awesome. If you have a recital, I definitely want to be invited. Yes. That would be amazing.
The last 2 years, I haven't invited anybody but Mom, because I was just like, and maybe my grandfather, because I'm like, oh, I'm not a little kid anymore. This is weird.
I would love it. Are you kidding me? I would love it. That would be so amazing. I would be there. I would totally attend.
It's like our class is like a little 70s theme. So I have like this real shimmery big bell sleeve thing, something I will probably never wear again. That's why I want to wear it. I'm like, I want to have a recital for the sake of the fact that I bought a costume I'm never going to wear.
Right. Just start doing Zoom classes and Zoom recitals, just
Oh,
invite people and you just dress up in your costume and be like, I'm going to dance for you in my
that
costume.
might be what happens. I don't know. I could see us actually having a recital in
Although
the amphitheater
that
in
did sound kind of
Woodstock.
weird. So I don't know if you want to do that or not.
Here's my costume.
Yeah, that sounded a lot like a better idea in my head until after I said it. So,
That's okay. It happens.
okay. So how do you feel like you're transforming your attitude during our current situation?
um, well, I mean, I feel like I had a good one going into this, but now it's not so anxiety driven. I think my question I had to have answered was, how am I going to be provided for? And I already had some savings, so that was fine. But now that, thank God for unemployment and stimulus packages, now that I have that, I feel like I can be proactive. I can look at my myself and be really introspective on me. But then like I'm enjoying, I get to, this is a dream come true in one regard. I get to feel like I'm a part of both worlds all at once. Like, it doesn't matter that Ireland is on a different time zone. I can still just call them. They're not doing anything. They're in a lockdown too. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I get even access to people, and we can all move through this.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know if that answers your question, but like, it's kind of in my head is like, what now can I do to, make this a better place other than work on me? Who else do I need to call today? And just check on them and
Right.
pray over them. So I've moved through I don't know if it's like what happens, when someone passes away and you go through the stages.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I went through this denial, and then
Absolutely.
really frantic looking, and now I'm in this growth process where I'm
Yeah.
okay, well, what can I do?
Those are very real things. Yes.
It is. And I think it's been, I feel like a lot of people have actually moved through those stages. I don't feel like a whole lot of
Absolutely.
people are stuck in the anxiety driven one unless they're on the front lines or they have a business.
Mm-hmm.
Those people, their days change like that. But because mine has stayed consistently similar now, I am privileged to actually have the opportunity towards growth. Whereas I think other people, it's going to be an instant all right, how am I going to put, my big girl pants on and just handle this? Seriously, if I just try to imagine what it's
And
like.
sometimes literally. That could
Yeah.
also be literally. How am I going to put my big old pants on?
I mean, I wore jeans only once this season.
I've been wearing jeans on purpose every day. Every day I've been putting on my jeans just to,
my workout pants are more comfortable. So I'm just going to say.
Well, absolutely. I definitely have more comfortable jeans or more comfortable pants, but yeah, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make sure I wear my jeans all the time. So yeah. What is one thing that you would like to leave everyone with that you hope transforms their attitudes as well?
Just flip the switch and wear the silver linings and embrace them hardcore, because at some point this could all change and we actually could go back to normal. And I guarantee you there will be a group of us that will miss this season because we missed out and because we soaked it up. And which category do you want to be in? Did you miss out on some of the things that we really could have embraced right now? Or are you missing it because you did embrace those things and you had those moments and you treasured them? A lot of us, I know I don't know, actually. I don't have children. That sounds like a nightmare in a way, to have little kids running around and you're just I can't. I mean, I see my friends' videos and they're hiding from their kids. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I have some parents that are messaging me and they're I don't know if I'll get this time back with my kids. Because they grow up so fast.
Yes.
So it's that kind of today, if you have a bad day, you'll get, it's a repeat tomorrow. You just wake up and do it again. You know what I mean?
Right.
We just
Exactly.
start over again. Just give yourself some grace,
Mm-hmm.
start over again. And then give yourself small goals. We don't need these lists. Like, I'm a overachiever. So like my list had to just go away, figure out what your priorities are, and then structure your day around them. But at the same time, give yourself the flexibility to do the adventures. Like,
Right.
I really want to go up to the mountains, even if I'm not allowed to, like, if we're not supposed to go anywhere like that far, I don't know. But if we're not going to get out of the car, just to like enjoy a drive with your arm out the window in the breeze and how pretty it is. And there's no pollen.
Yes,
So my eyes are not going to
so
be
amazing
like,
right now. Yes.
right. So like just the freedom to do that right now, like it, absorb it. And then like, how do I want to be better when I leave this season? I want to be better. I want to not just be a better person. I want to be a better follower of Jesus.
Right.
I can't make much of an impact right now because I'm alone, but I can. And it matters on how I pray. It matters on the posture of my heart. It matters that I still pick up the phone and check in with people. And then like who I do FaceTime, the attitude that we have. Like at first I think that I was just like, you know, posting because I was bored and like there's things just weren't working. So I was trying to be real. But then I realized that that was, you know, making me focus on the negative sides of it. And that like, I really felt like at the beginning of the year that God was asking me to constantly focus on the silver linings of everything. And there's so many things to be grateful for right now. I even flipped my calendar ahead far enough to where November popped up. And I was like, good Lord, what is Thanksgiving going to look like this year?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're right.
But what could it look like?
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But at the same time, if it is, like how thankful we will be. But that's a daily thing that I can have right now. I don't know. I personally would like beg people to like do what you've wanted to do now. You know, I saw a post or a tweet where it's just like, when this is all over, make sure that you chase your dreams. You go after that body you want. You do that job that you want to do. I'm like, why in the world would we wait until quarantine's over with for that? I was like, I can set up my life right now. Because John Tyson said, look, when this is over with, the habits that we built in quarantine are the ones that are going to be continued when it's over with. And I was like, I'm trying to change my habits. So what can I change right now to build for post shelter in place life? And like returning from Ireland helped me with that because I was like, I'm not going to overstructure my days. I'm not going to run myself into the ground. I purposefully am going to grad school part-time, even though it might cost me more money because of my mental health, and my degree requires that my mental health is in check all the time. So like I have to structure my days better to keep the part of, you know, to make for the life that I want. And I know that like, that's something that you guys resound on your podcast all the time, the passions that you want to keep in place in your life. You have to structure it. And this is a good opportunity because this is a clean slate now.
Absolutely.
Like,
it is.
I get to choose what job I actually return to. I get to choose how I structure my job, you know, how I structure what I keep giving myself to, you know.
I need to call the shot from here on out.
I do. And I have the power to do that. But I also now see the destructiveness of some of the habits I've placed in my life and the expectations I've placed over my life. Like my expectations sometimes are way too high, but culture kind of, you know, supports a lot of those expectations.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that if I don't want to do what culture does anymore, it's really hard to swim upstream. And as I've seen in the last 3 years, I've got, it's easier to give up and just float with everyone else.
Right. Absolutely.
But I don't want to live in a rundown life anymore. I don't want to go back to us running this rat race. You know, and it's different. Sometimes you have seasons for that. And sometimes you have to just work hard and put your feet down and be like, this is a season. But sometimes seasons turn into your entire existence. And I don't know how to do that.
Seasons are just that. Yeah. Seasons are just that. They have a beginning and they have an end. And when you're constant, like you can't continue, oh, well, I'm just in a season and it be years down the road. No, that season should have ended a long time ago. You need to enter into your new season right now. What I really hear you saying is that we need to finish well. And I love that. Finish well, which means if we finish well, we have to be doing well right now. And this is every opportunity for us to be able to change our attitudes in that. And sometimes that's all it takes is an attitude change. And I understand that there are people who are living in circumstances that they can't change. but they can change the way that they view those circumstances, and they can change the way that they think about them. They can change their attitudes about them and maybe view them in a whole different way. And this is their opportunity to start fresh and to be able to, do something new right now and continue with that newness after this is over, and be in control of themselves and their lives. And also, finishing well for me also means that I can look back and go, yeah, I did a good job, or I'm satisfied with how I handled that situation. Or maybe people on the outside could look in and go, yeah, you know what? They're handling that situation well, and I applaud them for that. So that's part, for me, that's part of the finishing well part, is to be able to have that reputation at the end of, I did this the best that I could throughout the entire journey.
Yeah. And I think that also means that we have to not turn this act of handling, our season well as another form of productivity. Like, there's some grace in that. And sometimes I think that and everybody knows themselves well. Like, and if you don't, then it's just, you have time. But it's like, we know how, if we're too hard or too soft on ourselves. And I think that there is a lot of, I need to do this, I want to do that. And I've seen a lot of people finally like relax the list and relax the productivity. And sometimes I think that it might mean, like, one of my friends was like, you know what? The main thing I want out of this is that I really enjoyed my children. That's it. Like, there's no other long list of things. Right. Like, I could add
Absolutely.
so much to that list, but reality says that to do something well, your focus needs to be a little bit more narrow and smaller and pinpoint it. And sometimes it just means prioritizing things, but that's also us still working from our old American mindsets of like, I have to be productive even in a downtime. Sometimes productivity means you just rested today. Sometimes that just means you sat outside in the sun. And sometimes it means that you just took care of what needed to take care of. And so like that it's that juxtaposition of like, what in my life is not healthy, and how does that need to change? For some people, it might mean, no, I need to get up and go exercise because my blood pressure is off, or like I actually do need to take care of myself. And for some people, that's just like, no, I've been beating myself up this entire quarantine for not doing all of my projects. I need to just be still and know that God is God. I am not. And I'm going to just ask him every morning, what fun could we get into today? Is there a project that I need to tackle? Is there something you want to talk to me about? Is there a book I need to start reading? Or do I just need to go sit in the sunshine and enjoy your creation? Like, and I think that it's that daily manna from God that like, I don't need to necessarily plan out my week right now. And I have the benefit of not having to do that. If I had kids, we would have to keep our days real structured and make sure that they, do the best that they can. But at the same time, like, this is new for them too. Like, it's per context. And I think everyone knows internally what would give themselves refreshment and what would give themselves refinement. And I think that balancing that is gonna be where your blessing is in this season, is that no, you're not trying to be overly productive. No, you're not, ignoring the things in your heart that hurt, but you are doing the best that you can, and you're loving your family and loving yourself well in whatever context that looks like. And for some people, that means that you don't get to be with them. I mean, there's nurses that like, they literally are living in a hotel to keep their family safe, and they have to, do Zoom calls with them every day. And that's a sacrifice. And give yourself the benefit of knowing I did something good. Like, that's a heroic thing to do for your family, and I think it's like, it's a balancing act, but it means that you need to know yourself and just trust that the Lord's got it. And that it's okay to have many days where we get to just rest and enjoy this earth that God has given us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is absolutely amazing. Yes, I totally agree with that. And I hope that is something that everyone can carry forward. I hope that we do see a change in society, and maybe even change, if we change a generation, then that generation can carry the torch onto future generations. And I think that is, I think that's a very hopeful thing that we can have. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, Shelley. I appreciate you being on the podcast today. This has been amazing as usual. I love seeing your beautiful face and just talking with you. I miss you too. I know. I would love to get together with you, and maybe we can do that very soon. I know the kids would love to see you too. So
Yes.
thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.